No, we weren't live. I think we're live now. I can stop making goofy jokes.
Let me just check YouTube real quick. Are you checking? Or are you checking?
No, you check it, Sheikh. No, I'm sorry. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks. My name is Sim. Along with me is my single non-late co-host,
Assalamu alaikum.
Shaykh Omer. Welcome to the show, everyone. Ahlan wa welcome, as they say in your country, Shaykh. Help us out on patreon.com/the Mad Mamluks. Be sure to be a good human being and smash that like button. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. Comment in the comment section below with your thoughts related to the show. Hey Shabab, it's time to get serious, Sheikh. No smiling.
When you start speaking Arabic words, bro, it just gets a little goofy.
Yeah, the goofies. Well, what's goofy about right now, Sheikh? Why don't you tell me what's so goofy?
Nothing, bro. We have a very esteemed guest with us today. Very esteemed. Returning. For the third time.
Fourth time.
Fourth time. Allah. Maaf karo, Ustad, bhul gaya bhai.
Shaykh Omer Haqqani, welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We're all delighted to have you.
Well, gruesome numbers, Sheikh. There's 8,000 people who are shaheed now in the Gaza Palestine conflict. There's no
Presumably
way.
10, yeah.
Yeah, some
Presumably
estimates
10K, yeah.
Some estimates are saying 10,000. I'm just going with the most conservative estimate. I'm hoping for the best and praying that that this comes to an end. But it doesn't look good. There's not a lot of hope in seeing what, at least from what I'm seeing with people who have power. On a world stage and even on a local stage, I don't see the right effort happening.
Yeah.
I'm not very enthusiastic about everything that's happening, and I need to talk to some level-headed, reasonable young shabab like yourself who'll calm me down. We'll say, Sim, it'll be okay.
No, I think it depends what you mean by it'll be okay, but I think the first thing is, and I definitely want Shaykh Omar to chime in on this, all along, the two-state solution was a hoax the whole time along. Yeah. Anybody who believed it was naive. If there was to be after the two-state solution, where there won't, because there's no infrastructure left for another state to exist, right? There's no such thing as another infrastructure of Gaza to be another state, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is the two-state solution. When we were talking about the two-state solution in the late 90s, early 2000s, was because the quote-unquote democracy of quote-unquote Israel, the human rights violations that were taking place in the apartheid state originally, and the second-class citizen led us to easily believe, and this whole deception of what the narrative is, led us to understand that this whole two-state solution thing was a hoax, and it was never going to be possible in the first place. Yeah, it was all just a joke and naivety, basically.
Did you guys see the latest leak that happened on the Haaretz newspaper? The Israeli newspaper had a leak that said internally within Israel there's been discussions, privately, secret discussions, on how to get the people of Gaza into the Sinai Peninsula.
Yeah.
How they can push them out of Gaza completely, not just move them to the south. Drive them all the way into the Sinai Peninsula. And they said, what they teased the Egyptians with? Because that's Egyptian property. So we'll pay off all your World Bank debts.
Yeah.
All your debts. That's I think it's like $20 billion.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
And then I think there were some reports of saying they were saying a majority of it, parts of it, majority of it, but nonetheless the incentive, right? But yeah, go ahead, Sheikh.
I think what you said, I think that has been the plan all along, is to drive them away or drive them out of their lands, so they can, continue claiming the land as they've been doing from day one. I think that was part of that is part of the plan, and that's definitely what it seems like now, based on what we're seeing now. There's no distinction between any armed struggle, any people who are armed or civilians. As we can see, a vast majority of the casualties, the figure 9,000. We have the breakdown here. The number of children are close to about 3,000 or more than 3,000.
Yeah.
So even yesterday, when they bombed the refugee camp, it was a refugee camp that was bombed. I think first thing someone should ask is, where did these refugees come from? The refugees in their own land that were, uprooted from their own lands, and they were living in refugee camps. And then, they dropped, I think, about 5 or 6 bombs, and that leveled the entire camp, with hundreds of casualties. And the explanation that was given was, they suspected that there was a commander in there, and they wanted to get him. Now, for your audience and for you guys as well, you're familiar with the news personalities such as Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah.
For him to be able to not go along with what you're saying, is an accomplishment if you're able to do that, because he had a spokesperson on there, and he asked him, so are you telling me that you leveled this because you thought there was one person there and you weren't sure if he was there or not, but you chose to drop the bomb just in case?
I know a lot of people saw it. It's just worth watching it again. Let me just put it on.
And the best part is, then he asks him a follow-up question. He says, so did you get him? And he says, we don't know.
Yeah.
So you...
And then he backtracks, like, I think we did. Yeah. You could tell he was lying through his teeth. Bro.
So you murdered an entire village, basically.
Yeah.
Because you thought that there was one person there, and you don't even know if you got the job done or not.
Another fallacy that I've come to believe. While you're pulling that up, what I've learned to believe, this whole international law thing doesn't apply to Israel, obviously, either. Everything they've done has gone against international law, and they can still keep doing it. Nobody is actually going to try them for anything. At least right now, nobody's going to try them for any type of war crime, right? You're not allowed to cut off electricity and water and all these supplies to refugees that you're supposed to be responsible for in the first place. It goes against international law. The indiscriminate bombing, the settlements, and now this let's just in case throw a bomb there. And it doesn't have anything to do with any commander. It just means that, hey, we're just trying to eliminate as many humans as possible, and the whole world just sits and watches, and everything is okay. There's no panic on their side whatsoever. At least they don't show that, hey, we messed up. No remorse.
But there is action. There's strong condemnation from the Muslim countries.
Yeah.
First there was condemnation, but now it's stronger.
Yeah.
Well, what else do you expect?
Nothing. They're just a condemnation.
But, while you're pulling that, you talked about the two-state solution and all of that. I think that's a bigger picture that we can talk about, but I think primarily what we should focus on now is the now and the immediate.
Yeah.
Especially for, the Muslims living here in the West, because I think that's a question a lot of people are struggling with in terms of this conflict. People who knew about the conflict, of course, the Palestinians, they knew about it. The Arabs, they knew about it. Some Muslims knew about it, but most, I don't know if I should say most, but a lot of people were not aware of the level, of the how bad the situation was until October 7th. For a lot of people,
and people have been absorbing like sponges now because of October 7th. Yeah.
For a lot of people, this conflict started on October 7th, including many Muslims as well. And what they say or what they understand, they're always fighting back and forth. This is a normal thing. Yeah. But now they're starting to see, like, wait a minute, this is much bigger than what we thought it was. Yeah. So
funded by our tax dollars.
Funded by our tax dollars. Yeah. So I think the focus now should be, and I think this is the area that is lacking some sort of guidance, not just here in America, but I think in most of the Western countries, as to what is it that we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
There are certain things that we do which come naturally, even for non-Muslims as well. And one of them is, like protests, for example. Okay, you do that. But can we do something else, or what can we do, or what should we be doing?
Yeah, what is something that someone should be doing in the first place?
So I think the conversation should focus on
I
that.
agree with you 100%.
Versus talking about one-state solution or two-state solution, or we're not there.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Let's worry about what you and I can do, because at the end of the day, as Muslims, we are going to be held accountable for what we do in this world.
You're right.
And in this situation, every single one of us, whether we're living here or whether living over there, everyone is going to be held accountable, Muslim and non-Muslim. They're going to be held accountable for what role they played, given, the scale of the atrocities that we're seeing today. I think that's what we should focus on.
I think we should focus on whatever you want to focus on, because we've talked about a lot of this stuff. It's kind of our habit to summarize things and talk about things. And sometimes I think, especially with Sim, I've learned this from him, is when you can get that gotcha moment, you throw the gotcha out there when someone believes something and you got to throw a gotcha out there. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. But no, I think that's very right. That's being proactive. I think we should definitely focus on in the now, especially in our context, is like, what are we supposed to be doing now? But Sim's about to just pull up this video, somewhat of a...
This is the tragedy of war, Wolf. I mean, as you know, we've been saying for days, move south. Civilians that are not involved with Hamas, please move south.
Wait, I think
This command
Senior Commander, Wolf, and we'll be updating... Hi, Wolf. Thanks for having me. So we'll be coming out in the next, hopefully, hour with more data, but I can update you now that there was a very senior Hamas commander in that area. Sadly, he was hiding, again, as they do, within civilians. And that's all I can say at this point. We're looking into it, and we'll be coming out with more data as we learn what happened there.
So can you confirm it was an Israeli attack that destroyed a big chunk of that Jabalia refugee camp?
Yes, I can. We were focused again on our target, a senior commander, Wolf, and we'll be updating you with more data as the hour moves ahead.
But even if that Hamas commander was there amidst all those Palestinian refugees who were in that Jabalia refugee camp, Israel still went ahead and dropped the bomb there, attempting to kill this Hamas commander, knowing that a lot of innocent civilians, men, women, and children, presumably would be killed. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's not what you're hearing, Wolf. We're focused on this commander, again, who you'll get more data who this man was. Killed many Israelis. We're doing everything we can. It's a very complicated battle space. There could be infrastructure there. There could be tunnels there.
Notice that there's a lot of coulds here.
We're still looking into it, and we'll give you more data as the hour moves ahead.
But you know that there are a lot of refugees, a lot of innocent civilians, men, women, and children in that refugee camp as well, right?
This is the tragedy of war, Wolf. I mean, as you know, we've been saying for days, move south. Civilians that are not involved with Hamas, please move south.
I'm just trying to get a little bit more information. You knew there were civilians there, you knew there were refugees, all sorts of refugees, but you decided to still drop a bomb on that refugee camp attempting to kill the Hamas commander. By the way, was he killed?
I can't confirm yet. We'll be more updated. Yes, we know that he was killed.
I can't confirm that. That will be updated.
Okay, so this is...
Wow.
No. One thing that needs to be understood regarding this, Wolf Blitzer is a paid person from AIPAC. He's always been defending Zionists forever. When you see someone like him go after an Israeli commander or the Israeli message, it's not him having a clear conscience. He's already an actor. He's part of the wheel. He's part of the system of propaganda and whatever the American government wants out of him. So what's he doing? He's leveraging power or a message that the American government is not happy with Israeli tactics. Now, if you rewind to last week, American commanders Lieutenant General, I forgot what's his name. Lieutenant General went to Israel to help them coordinate a ground assault onto Gaza. And apparently he was supposed to stay there for like 2 weeks. He left a week early. And he said, he effectively said, they're not listening to me. Whatever they do is their decisions. So the quote is reading that he's just doing, what Israel is going to do is what they want to do. If you read between the lines, he's saying that they're not listening. They're not listening to him.
Yeah.
And so this is America's way, or the United States' way, of using Wolf Blitzer to put pressure on Israel.
I see.
You know,
So we talked about-
he's not a person. There's other commentators like this guy from the David Parkman show or whatever that we were watching from. He's saying, you know, even Wolf Blitzer is saying, Wolf Blitzer did not have a clear conscience. All of a sudden, he had an awakening. Hidayah came through him. Stop being naive. I mean, at least for Muslims, you know.
No, we talked about this last time too. Remember when Sim said that they were contacting companies and corporations, telling them what the narrative is going to be? This is no different, right? America is trying to
great
exercise
observation.
pressure on Israel by usage of media. This is what we talk about all the time, right? Media, social media, all kinds of media now play a big part in the way things happen, right? And so in this case, America is using someone like a Wolf Blitzer, or CNN in this case, to express their dissatisfaction in what's happening there. Because think about these. These questions are, if you think about even the way the format of the questioning, right? He's hitting on a couple of questions over and over again. Right? It's not like it's a conversation happening. It's the same question. So you knew there were civilians. You knew this was a refugee camp, and you still bombed it. You still bombed it, right? You knew, and he keeps coming back to that. So obviously, it's trying to. The question itself is also a statement to the American public.
Communicating with your proxies. That's crazy.
Well, and also there's a shift in the Israeli in Israeli society on how to deal with the situation. There's people divided in there on how they feel about Netanyahu. Most of the public wants him out, and he's using this situation as a way to kind of solidify his power, his grip on power. And you know, usually, like for example, George W. Bush before 9/11, his ratings were low and he wasn't doing so well. Right after 9/11, everyone loves him. He's the commander they always wanted or envisioned him to be, and they were behind him. He's a freaking idiot, and but the country stands behind you when you are in turmoil, right? But Netanyahu is apparently so bad that he still has all this division, and he's trying to solidify power in crisis.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Israel was in political chaos before this, right?
Yeah.
He's not the Likud party, who's Netanyahu's party, is not a very popular party at the moment. They were doing something. They're seen as the right wing. And they did something where they were making the overhaul of the justice system, right? And liberals in the country and opponents of the Likud party saw this as an attempt to restrict opposition, right? And so many liberals in the country who actually are wealthy, because many of them are wealthy, you know, companies and Jews that have left from America to go open things over there. Money talks, right? But they're very liberal in values. And in protest, they decided to pull their headquarters out of Israel and their money out of Israeli banks. That was a sign of protest. And that put a strain on the Israeli economy, additional to the dissatisfaction that the Israeli public has with Bibi Netanyahu, right? So now, that coupled with the way he's planning on handling the strategy, there's a couple of things that kind of further the situation. We know now that that a couple of things, this is really important to know, that the mainstream media is not reporting on, or very little. Egypt had announced to them that there's something happening. That news, that leak of information that Egypt had informed them, it reached the Israeli public. 62% of them think that he did not act promptly enough or adequately enough on that information. That was one thing. Now, as the time is going on, and they're doing investigations into the whole peace festival thing, they're realizing that a good number of civilians died because of IDF crossfire, like basically friendly fire, they call it, right? And that the numbers are actually and 300 of them are actually soldiers, not civilians. So out of that, 1,400 number, I think almost 400 were IDF soldiers, okay? So they felt kind of lied to about the narrative, right? That it was just, them coming in shooting. No, a lot of that also, part of the chaos was the inadequacy of the Israeli army, right? Like them shooting and also killing their own. Number 3, in the current situation, they know Hamas has hostages. And the Israeli public is very, I guess they're dissatisfied with the way that Netanyahu has not made an attempt to at all try to negotiate for hostage release. And they're concerned that the bombings they're doing are going to also kill hostages who are Israeli, right? And they're counting those numbers on Hamas, and they're conveniently saying, oh, well, Hamas did that. But they're saying, no, you knew there were civilians there. Our civilians, our people, they don't care about Palestinians. Our Israeli civilians are there, and you're intentionally putting them in harm's way. So all these things combined is mounting pressure on Israel, that accompanied with the American narrative, because America has a different position now. Yes, they're allies with with Israel, but they also have other countries to appeal to maintain relations with, right? Europe right now has, for a long time, obviously the colonial powers have, always supported each other, but their populations are becoming unruly. They're saying, how can we stand by? And so their societies are putting pressure on them, and they're putting pressure on America to say, hey, our people are getting kind of rowdy here. Like, they're not tolerating this very well. Like, you see a massive protest in UK. You see, chaos going on in France where people are not defying police orders to not protest. You look at, like, the Brooklyn Bridge in New York where people are shutting down the bridge. Like, you look at, for example, the other, what's his name, Abu Ivanka's son-in-law. What's his name? Jared Kushner. He comes out and goes, I think it's safer to be a Jew in Saudi Arabia now than college campuses. So stuff like this makes people realize that the pushback against this narrative that it's all, just about everyone over there is Hamas and we can bomb anybody indiscriminately without any repercussions is something that it's becoming very difficult to defend. So citizens are putting pressure on governments. Governments ultimately put pressure on Americans. And Israel is doing what they want to do. So the only way America can respond is by putting out a narrative like this.
Yeah, you were mentioning something about Jordan recalling. Can you? I didn't know the detail about that. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, today. So you talked about public pressure. We talked. I know you guys talked about it in the previous podcast as well. And I think that's something that needs to continue, is to continue putting the public pressure here locally, and for your audience everywhere, wherever they're listening from in their countries, to do what they can to keep the pressure up. And we're starting to see the results of that. Is it the desired result that we want to see? No, I don't think so. But I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I think it's going to build up to that. So yesterday, I believe yesterday we read that Colombia or Bolivia, one of the two Latin countries, they cut off diplomatic ties completely. I mean, that's really embarrassing for the Muslim world countries that are Muslim majority, the heads of states of those countries, for a Latin country to do what they've done, and then for them to be in the same neighborhood and the neighbors not doing a single thing. But today, Jordan recalled their ambassador from Israel, and it was a mutual thing. Recall your ambassador and call your ambassador back, and then we'll see what happens. But it's not the first time they've done this. They've done this a few years ago.
It's a symbolic thing. They're not really going to do anything.
Probably worried about safety.
That's a crazy part about Jordan.
It's not about safety. He's going to be fine.
It's just to show anger.
It's just to show or allow an outlet for the public to feel like they have.
We're doing something about it.
Yeah, we got this under control. We know better. Like that one fiqh Shaykh Faris Hamadi talks about. He's like, let your government figure these out. These are big grown-up talk. We'll figure it out in the back channels, and you don't worry about boycotting. You don't worry about protesting. None of that is allowed in Islam.
Because the people who are in authority have much more information than you. do, and they are much more more informed and more equipped to make decisions that are, better for you than you. You don't know anything, so just follow follow your leaders.
Another sickness. Yeah, man.
But building on that now, so let's talk about what do we do? Like, what can we do that can help the situation overall? I don't think there's much that we can do in terms of immediate assistance, besides, of course, donating to reputable organizations. That goes without saying. We don't have to say that. But other than that, I think we should think about this, short term and long term, because I think this is an opportunity that we have now that we may not have again for a long time, to change the narrative. Because any situation you look at, you're gonna have three kinds of people. I think one is the one that are already with you. The second are the people who are not with you, and they're never going to be with you. But then there's the third kind, who are not that well informed to be able to make that decision which direction they need to go on. I know you played that video last week about that one person. He said he didn't know any of this before, and now he woke up from the coma that he's been in for so long, and he sees what is happening. And that's the majority of the people.
Wait, who woke up from the coma?
The video clip that we played.
This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he only knew one side of the story the whole time.
We played the clip of that guy, the American guy, talking about his tax dollars, and he was throwing the F-bombs, and the clip that we played. Yeah.
So I
the
think
last time you mean?
In the last episode, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's the group of people that we should focus on, because that's the majority of the people. I would not focus on the people who don't agree with you. If they don't agree with you, they already have their mind made up. I would focus more on the majority of the people who don't have their mind made up, who are looking for information, and this is a golden opportunity for us to work with them on this that can make a difference. And I'm not talking about working within the system and all of those things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about building the public.
No voting?
But building the
public
public,
opinion.
the public opinion, which is important. Because let's be realistic. Even if every single Muslim who's eligible to vote or have a voice in this country, if they all stood together and voted for one thing, it's not going to make any difference.
To the foreign policy.
1 to 1.6% people for the foreign policy.
Yeah, we don't have a vote block, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter whether you have a vote block or not. It doesn't affect foreign policy. Voting blocks
It affects domestic policy.
Domestic policy, it does.
Yeah.
Foreign policy, you saw Vietnam, you saw Gulf War, all kinds of different.
Yeah, I mean, these are lobbyists essentially. They have to go in the Congress, and we don't have. I mean, that's
but even the lobby, I saw something really interesting. Even like lobbies are considered now. People are like, they're looking at it as just like a big deception in the sense of lobbies. People who are lobbying have been just, it's just a glorified bribery, and the lobbying really is something for domestic reasons. It doesn't really affect, again, the foreign policy issue that America has. Especially after October 7th, I'm so convinced that if all 8 billion people were against this war in this world, I'm concerned of how much of a difference that it would make regarding what decisions need to be made for monetary growth and monetary reasons. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about your point of what you're talking about. I think the general public, even just for people, look, nobody likes to go places where they're not loved, right? Just on the simple level. You don't want to go to a place where everybody hates you. What you would like to do is where you're living, you would like to uncover a truth and let people actually understand what's happening because they've been deceived for a long time. So that's the first benefit, I think, of what you're talking about. What's the other benefit of the majority of the people you said to get in, to change the narrative for them?
I think fundamentally there's some growing up that the people who like to represent themselves as leaders of Muslims or Muslim communities, they need to do some growing up and some education on their part, and they need to do it quickly. And I'll give you one example of that. I mean, this issue is very hot. There's a lot of positive things, believe it or not, that are coming out of in terms of what we talked about, public opinion and people waking up and all those things. We all know the the unfortunate killing of the Muslim boy that happened a few weeks ago, right? One of the reasons why that happened, which is indisputable, is because the guy told you why he's killing you, is killing the child, is because what he's been seeing on TV.
Yeah.
And this happened the week that the 40 beheaded babies lies was spread around, and unfortunately that came all the way from the top as well, from the president of this country, okay, which they ended up having to retract, right?
Which you quote unquote saw, yeah.
He said he saw it, but then they said they didn't see it, and then they couldn't confirm it, and we know that they had to take that back, right? Now, what happens is, this is a golden opportunity for the people to build a public opinion and build on this. Now, they had a vigil held in our neighboring city, not far from us, that week. Now, it was, you had Muslims and non-Muslims, and that came, and all of those things. To this event, the White House, they had sent a Muslim representative to show as a solidarity, or we're with you and all of these things. And this was a golden opportunity for the people who were organizing the rally to take a stand, to say that you can't be propagating lies against us, okay, or misinformation. Let's be a little gentle about it. Let's misinformation. Okay, maybe he didn't know. Okay, he didn't know. I mean, he is getting older, so maybe he didn't know. And he was misinformed, or whatever. Okay, but the end result is a child lost his life. Yeah. Right. That's the indirect. You don't want to say direct. That's fine. But that played into it, right? You can't be doing that and then sending someone and saying, "Oh, we're still with you. We care about you." So, I think in this case, a stronger statement, a much stronger statement would have been made if the Muslims had gotten together and said, "We thank you for your coming, but we don't think it's appropriate for you to be at this event."
They did that with Justin Trudeau, I think.
At the masjid, at the masjid. He ended up speaking anyway, but he saw the displeasure from the people. Yeah. But over here, not only did they let this guy speak, okay, and there were many people who objected to it, and believe it or not, there were many non-Muslims who objected to it than Muslims did, and they were threatening them to be taken out of the room, and they were telling them to be quiet. This is your event. You decide who's going to speak, who's not going to speak. You would have sent a much stronger message all the way to the top saying, thank you, but no thanks. You can't be doing this and this. But, the age-old, I don't know what it is. When people are in that position, they get so...
subservient. I think they get subservient. I think their brownness comes out, their colonialism inside comes out. Oh, sir, our masters have come to talk to us, and we have to obey. We can't disrespect them. Yeah. And I really think it's some kind of deep-seated colonialism in the fabric of our community, where this kind of mentality where you don't have the ability to say no to someone who's been punching your community in the mouth, and then with the other hand offers something sweet, or saying it's kind of like Modi trying to do something nice. Prime Minister Modi of India trying to do something nice or give say something nice about Muslims. You know that it's not true. It's fake. Yeah. And yet you allow them the platform of someone, of your child, of your community who was brutally stabbed.
That, bro. Yeah.
Forget that. I don't
know. The organizers, they released a statement later on, after many people had reached out to them saying, "Oh, we had many backstage conversations. We weren't sure if we should, go with it or not, but in the end, we ended up going with it."
Yeah. It's sad. It's really sad. You're right. That was a very golden that was a golden opportunity for sure. I think some of it has to do with colonialism, Sim. I think some of it also has to do with lack of understanding of the world around ourselves. And I also think, look, man, I think all of us have sicknesses of our heart. I think a lot of it has to do with sickness of the heart too. I think a lot of it is that we feel that there's people that are capable because they're in front of us, that there's certain things. Yeah, of course, Allah is for spirituality in the masjid and on our own private. But I think that we're really at a point where this is kind of like a sifter to show that who actually believes that Allah can do something that's unimaginable. You know what I'm saying? I think that we've gotten so pragmatic to a level of where the sickness comes in, where it's like, yeah, I know that, but this is realistic. But no, for us, realistic is something else.
We want a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's usually like that. That's that mentality that over the past 20 years has been kind of embedded in our community.
Yeah.
We need a seat at the table.
This
we
is
need
how
a
the
seat.
game is played.
We need to be invited for the Ramadan iftar dinners and stuff like that while they're dropping bombs on our heads.
Yeah.
They're inviting you for iftar. And most sensible, reasonable Muslims of the mainstream Muslim community here in America said, no, we're not going to. But there were some bootlickers who broke away. And they saw that as an opportunity to further their careers, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of them also have to realize that, I mean, this idea of we need a seat at the table. Who else said this? If we go back to the Abraham Accords, Bin Bayya and Hamza Yusuf, right? Regardless of how you feel about them, but this is what their attitude is, right? It's better than to leave a seat, unoccupied at a table. Their argument is that, well, if you don't get to the table, well, how do you expect to ever have a conversation?
You're the meal or something. I mean,
yeah.
give you some.
So
some
the issue
example.
here is that the process of getting to the table is what is humiliating, right? If they've just invited you as you are, that's a different story, right? You can maybe justify that, but you're going through hoops and hurdles, licking the boots, eating with the dogs, and then you're saying, we're gonna get a seat at the table, hopefully. We're not gonna get the scraps anymore. Like they're just begging for attention. And to be honest, I think one thing that we've learned is that I think if there's something that we've learned from the whole invasion of Afghanistan and the way the Taliban dealt with things, regardless, like them or hate them, but staying the course. And eventually they will have to come to terms with you.
I see what you're saying.
Sure, I mean, people can make criticisms of the Taliban, whatever, but for the most part, they were seen as someone that did not want to, just accept everything the Americans were telling them. I'm sure they made some concessions. Obviously, if they're in power, right? There's some, but it was more so of, okay, well, what are you also going to do for us as well? Right? We still have certain core things that we want. We want to have power. We want our people to be in power. We're not going to let other people come in and make a unity thing. No, we want power, right? I mean, there's certain things they stood their ground on, and which have ultimately made the Americans realize that we have to deal with these people only. They're the ones that are the hindrance, right? So I think if we can learn something from that entire conflict or the whole war and all that stuff, is that sometimes staying the course and holding true to what you want and what your position is ultimately allows them to respect you a little bit more.
Yeah. And, since we're talking about changes and people that are speaking up about this, I remember, Sim, you were talking about this before the episode. But, Sheikh, I wanted to get your take on this as far as, the International Union of Muslim Scholars had put out a statement.
Yeah, we can talk about that, but I just want to finish one more thing on this point here about, what our leaders are doing or people who claim to represent Muslims. Just 5 days ago, a group of Muslims had a meeting with the president in the White House. How many people know about this? Wall Street Journal has an article about this. Huh?
I didn't know about it.
Yeah, so they had a meeting.
Who are the leaders?
So here's the people that were in attendance. This is what I'm saying. Like, Muslims are so much in
the dark.
In the dark, they have no clue what's happening. There are people who are making decisions on their behalf, or claim to be representing Muslims. But you would see all the carnage that's happening on one side. On the other hand, reassure, we're with you. Don't worry, we're with you. We're gonna vote for you again. That crowd. I'm not calling for that. I'm not saying that. You know what I'm saying, but. Okay, let's see. The Wall Street Journal has an article. So it says the meeting was attended by Keith Ellison.
Oh,
okay.
This one, yeah.
Oh, he's the ultimate bootlicker.
While Al-Zayed, who is supposed to be the chief executive of Engage, a group that seeks to turn out Muslim voters, the interfaith leader Imam Muhammad Majid, and Rami Nashashibi from Chicago, from Iman, and Suzanne Barakat.
Who?
Suzanne Barakat.
Suzanne Barakat. She was the
Her brothers and
they were murdered,
the
right?
Chapel Hill murders.
Chapel Hill.
The
yeah.
Chapel Hill murders.
Yeah. Got it.
So these guys had a meeting. What they talk about?
No, but hold
What
on.
did they say?
What I'm saying is,
Was anything released about their discussion?
no, but what I'm saying is Suzanne, like, does she lead any kind of organization?
No, they know that the sentiment of the Muslims in Chicago are with her and with her siblings that got murdered.
I'm saying, but how?
Look, it's a power move. It's a strategic
Wait,
move.
hold on. What I'm saying is, even from a strategic perspective, I didn't even know who that woman was. Like, I mean,
No, a lot of people do.
A lot of people do.
All of Michigan. A lot of people know who she is.
She's well known in the American community because of the Chapel Hill murders. You remember
Yeah.
those, right? The three people.
So, and she basically did a TED talk too, and a few TED talks, I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Very
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
That's the thing now.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know she was in a public platform
Yeah,
out
yeah,
there
she-
besides besides the murder.
In and
right?
out.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, so what is the? Because like Rami, we see, Iman. I can see that, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever. I didn't make the connection between something
Yeah,
beyond
yeah.
just the Chapel Hill murder.
Yeah, but no, I thought they would at least release something like, "Hey, this is what we discussed." Nothing.
No, I'm sure they probably went and told him, please don't kill us that much, just a little bit. I don't know what number they gave him, and then don't worry, we'll vote for you again.
No, I know what they were talking about. That Ramadan's coming up, right? They have to plan the next dinner.
No, usually what happens is they try to make people aware of like the sensitivities of it, Muslims
Yeah.
being lumped in with Hamas, and this is the kind of language they usually come with. Hamas is equal Palestinians. We got to make sure that our communication from the White House is directed around that, and you saw some of that too. You saw some of that. I'm not sure if it was a result of their interaction with Biden, but that's the kind of communication that happens.
Yeah,
basically.
but Biden did eventually make some kind of statement about that boy in Chicago, right? But I think ultimately what we're trying to say is that these conversations are meaningless. They're just for optics. They don't really
Yeah.
achieve anything.
Do you think
There's-
the people
there's-
are there? Look, because the people that go there, look, I know a lot of people respect those, at least one or two of those individuals that are there. Do you think that when they're going there, they feel that they're going as a source of delegation for Muslims in the United States?
I believe that they have good intentions, of course.
Yeah.
I'm not going to doubt their intentions. But what I'm saying is ultimately, how many of these meetings have you had with no change?
Yeah.
Right? These things. I think that's the main point to take
Yeah,
away.
we saw
right?
this right after 9/11. We
Yeah,
saw
with
people.
Various leaders.
All kinds. I mean, the problem with our community is that we don't learn. That's the most frustrating
Yes.
thing. That we've been through this cycle with the American government before, where they repeatedly make us the fifth column in this country, and then they say, "Oh, we'll scale back on our rhetoric." Like you knew you could have scaled it back right from the beginning. You knew exactly what you're doing, and then when violence starts happening, people start getting killed. Oh, let's invite the Muslim delegation, the same usual delegation that is always they're like a troop that's traveling everywhere, and have
We want to hear from them
wanna
and reassure them that
even though
your safety.
even
we're
though
with
they
you.
know exactly what to do, they know what they were doing by lumping Hamas with Islam and with regular Muslims all across the country, and they were genuinely increasing fervor and hatred towards Palestinians, and they invited this violence.
So when you say that sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so this ties back into his first comment. Like CNN and Fox News and these places making that connection between Hamas and terrorism and Muslims is not something done on their own accord, right? This is something, and what I believe the intention behind the U.S. government doing that is because if they can say on the public media, perhaps this is one of their intentions or goals, that Hamas, Islam, they want to put Muslims in a position where they have to effectively, instead of voicing outrage about what's happening in Palestine, be on the defense and say, no, we're not terrorists. We're not terrorists. Because they're so traumatized about 9/11, right? Because you hear, and this is what I was trying to remind you earlier, don't fall into the trap of saying fear-mongering, 9/11 era. We know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
Right? Because the part of their agenda is to make you so afraid that you're unwilling to say, hey, what's happening in Palestine is wrong.
What do you think about this analysis, though? In order for equating that to the American public, if Israel went rogue, excuse me, and it did, and it is, and they're like, you know what? Now we have to make a story for these guys because in the sense of our guys went rogue, meaning Israel, and we have to let the American public at least pacify them, to let them know that Israel is doing what's best for them. They have a right to defend themselves. All that jargon. I personally think that America knew that Israel screwed up by taking these measures, but they also had to try to save face in the American public by almost taking the initiative for Israel by making out Hamas to be what it is, and this connection and the 40 babies and all that, just so the people don't get up in arms about.
This is how America does it. Their public stance will always be that they're behind Israel 100%. But they'll use outlets like the media, like Wolf Blitzer and them, to start squeezing some pressure, making sure that they're kind of in check, so that they understand that, hey, we still control the public narrative.
Because so many eyes are watching it.
If you get out of line, we'll amp up the volume. We'll turn the knob and remove the filters on our co-hosts or on our news outlets so that they can put pressure on you. Because everyone knows that what they're doing is wrong.
I think you missed the point I'm making. It's not that they... See, what happens is when you have things like this that happen, they cause massive outrages, right? Like people, even non-Muslims will be upset, extremely upset.
Yeah, they are.
But the people that are going to make the biggest noise are the Muslims, right? And including in the Muslim world, not just in America, right? All eyes are on America here, right? So if you can put the Muslims in a position of being on the back foot and saying, we're not terrorists, we promise, I condemn Hamas, you're separating yourself away from the Palestinians. It's causing you to distance yourself away from them, because now you're focused on saying, I don't want to be anywhere near that conflict, right? I don't want to say anything about it because I don't want to be associated with Hamas, right? So you're saying I have to defend, and you're going to spend time defending and saying, no, Hamas are not Muslims. They don't represent, people say all kinds of things. They don't represent Islam. They're barbaric and atrocious. Every single comment that has come out about Palestine has to start with Hamas. I condemn Hamas.
Yeah.
Not that I condemn IDF as well, right? You can say you're condemning both of them, but you can't even start with saying I condemn IDF.
Yeah.
Right? And that's part of the factor that, hey, put them on the back foot, let them be busy, because that, if they can't garnish support from the Muslims, like unified public support of Palestine, regardless of whether Hamas is there or not, right? Just that massive support of Palestine is what Israel doesn't want to see.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, everyone approaches this with the idea of self-preservation.
Yeah.
Everyone, without jumping on Israel, will get everyone to worry about their own interests, right? So you'll see on an individual level, you and I, regular people, will be worried about the safety and well-being of our families, right? Yeah. And making sure that we don't say anything that remotely resembles supporting Hamas or the terrorist attacks, so that we don't lose our jobs, right? And on a further next level, the scholars, right, and the influential Muslims in our community, they'll put a muzzle on them by making sure that they don't criticize anything that is related to Muslim governments, for example.
Don't talk about politics in your khutbah.
Right, don't talk about politics, or don't say anything that can prevent you to do future business with Muslim countries, because you may not be able to go there again and do any kind of dealings or lectures. And then what happens in the typical scholars of mine? Well, what benefit am I doing by getting banned from going to Kazakhstan? Cultural make benefit of Kazakhstan, the movie. So so-and-so scholar says, well, how am I benefiting Kazakhstan if I can't go and do lectures over there? Well, that's bad for everyone, isn't it? So I'm not going to say anything bad about Kazakhstan.
Because that's so important.
I love this guy. Keep going. Oh, this is great, dude.
So this is the thought. They rationalize it.
Yeah.
Our scholars and people who are influential, not the scholars, but influential people who have a lot of influence or input in how the Muslim community thinks and directs its energy and where to direct its energy towards. You're seeing chaos right now. You don't see anything directed at anything. You're just seeing we're raising awareness around what? You don't know anything. How are you solving their problems? They're getting killed. There's 8,000 goddamn people dead. Yeah. How are you doing anything?
Yeah, dude.
What the hell are you smoking, man?
Yeah.
Like, wake the hell up.
Yeah, dude.
There's 8,000 people dead, and you're still like, oh, here's the fires of Gaza on my Instagram profile. I'm like, what the hell, dude?
Yeah, dude.
Wake up.
That's sick,
Everyone knows that. There's 50 other Instagram profiles that have the same thing. What are you doing?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing? You could be telling Muslims all around the world to at least do a boycott on American products.
Yeah.
Forget about Israeli supporting products
Yeah,
or companies that support. Just boycott all American products all across the world. And no one wants to do anything. They don't want to piss off anyone. They want this no-risk revolution that I've been telling you guys over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
No one wants to sacrifice anything. No one wants to put their ass on the line. No one wants to move an inch.
You're
Then why do we wonder why the Muslim countries don't want to do anything?
Yeah.
Jordan doesn't want to do anything. Egypt, Turkey, none of them. They're armed to the teeth. Turkey has the best drones on the planet. The drones can just level. They're leveling Ukraine right now. Turkey's
Using Turkish drones.
You're all over. They're leveling the Russian army because Turkey's drones are being used by the Ukrainian army.
Really?
They're freaking destroying, man. And these people, they can't do anything? Are you kidding me? You don't need an air force like America. These drones are wiping the crap off of the map all across across Ukraine.
But many people are happy that Erdogan attended that rally last week.
Yeah.
And he gave a good speech.
The wonderful
Isn't that
speech.
enough?
Yeah, we're gonna come. We're gonna come. You keep saying this
we
stuff.
might
Great
show up at
words.
your doorstep.
Words, yeah, those are great words.
Yeah,
actually.
but I'm saying,
But
we have a lot of people with great words.
Yeah.
We don't have a shortage of words.
But
Words
people,
are always there.
This is people need to get out of this.
Yeah.
Like these are just actions and words that are designed to, release a little bit of that pressure that's there, and that's all it is. That's
Yeah.
all it is. There's no substance to it.
What
Because
about
from yesterday to today, hundreds of more children, men, women, and children have been killed. What have your words or actions have done against it?
Yeah.
Absolutely
So what
nothing.
do you tell those people that tell you if you had the same effort for your Fajr Salah that this would be the problem would be over? They tell you that, you know what, if you had the same outrage for you missing your Fajr Salah, this problem in Palestine would be over. They say no.
I mean, what do they say?
stuff like this.
Make dua, okay?
Yeah.
Make dua. Write to your congressman.
Yeah.
Raise awareness to tell everyone else
No,
about what's
that's
happening
one
about
side
Palestine.
that actually cares. But no.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the factor that says two things. Oh, three things. If you perfect your tawheed, this problem will be gone.
That's the root. Yeah.
If you put the same effort into waking up for Fajr, right, you could free Palestine. And number three, don't do boycotts and stuff like this because it harms your Muslim government and you don't know what these Muslim scholars know about,
your
what's
government made dealings
Yeah,
with
in your
other
interest.
companies in your interests,
Yeah.
and you're only hurting your own country
So
by
there's-
doing
there's
that.
a-
No,
three
I understood
arguments.
what you were talking about now.
Well, I want to get to think and see
Yeah.
what do you tell these people?
I don't know if you can have a sane conversation if someone who tells you that if you just wake up for Fajr and go for Fajr.
No, there's
the problem,
priorities. Look, I am not allowed to complete my Fajr even if I'm going to miss it if my neighbor's house is burning, whether he's Muslim or non-Muslim or mushrik, whatever the case is. My Fajr, of course, it's important. It's a fard upon every... Look, that's why in Usul we separate between what's fard al-ain and fard al-kifaya.
So you're talking about preservation of life, you're saying?
Yes, preservation of life. Of course, thank you. Yeah, and that's one of the main objectives of the Sharia, right? But that's why we're always talking about fard al-ain and fard al-ain. It's nobody has a choice; they have to do it. What's obligatory upon everybody, right? That's a separate compartment. We don't cross over to what's fard al-kifaya and say, "Oh, I'm not going to do," and I'm going to tell people about fard al-kifaya, the fard al-kifaya they're doing, not to do it because I'm not doing my fard al-ain and no one's doing the fard al-ain. It doesn't work like that, right? You have to look at priorities, which is why, look at the simple thing of the Sunnah of Rasulullah, which gives us like such a tasteful way of this. If food is being served and fard prayer is in place, with the majority of the fuqaha, it's better to eat the food, even if you're going to miss Jama'ah. Ahmad ibn Hanbal is of the opinion that if the food's going to go cold, then you should eat it. If it's going to remain warm, then you should pray with the Jama'ah. Like, that's such a small thing, but someone could be like, oh, what's wrong with his iman? Like, dude, Islam is not like that, right? So somebody who says, everyone should be praying Fajr, you're right. That's very, very important. But people, dude,
but you know
there's
what?
a massacre happening here, and that's much more important.
But what's worse about this,
Yeah.
this approach, is that it leads to apathy. people end up stop caring. Because when you don't give them direction, you don't give them any kind of roadmap. Like, this is how we're approaching this. No one, you know, when we were outside before the podcast started and stuff, we thought like, oh, you know, some of these scholars and organizations related to Palestine, they all must be working together somehow. There must be some kind of shady back room where they figure out, not scheming or anything, but just like strategizing and stuff, you know, and figuring out how to deal with this. None of that happens. Everyone is out for themselves. Yeah, sure, they do collaborations on each other's channels and stuff, and they help each other grow subscribers and followers, etc. But everyone, what your mentality, what you're seeing is a complete capitalist mentality. You see everyone out for themselves. No one wants to move an inch and stick their neck out and say something bold, direct against Muslim governments. Get your ass moving. Get some armies at the border of Palestine. They're not going to say that. No one wants to move an inch. That's right. Because they're scared. Like, why should I be the one who sacrifices my neck? Now, I don't see. So look at that other scholar. He has more of an influence than me. The senior scholars back home, they should do it first. Yeah. Why should I do it over there? Or why should I talk out of line? I haven't been given. There's so many bigger scholars than me. Yeah. Everyone's just passes the buck to someone else, and the same thing applies to the Muslim countries. They say Jordan says, hey, Egypt, you got this one. Egypt says, oh, Turkey's got that one. Saudi Arabia says, hey, we're running out of oil right now. We need to make a deal with Israel. And we got Shakira coming up. You know, how the hell are we gonna? How we can't handle the turmoil right now? You know, so everyone is just looking out for themselves from a micro level. Remember, past few weeks, for you listeners who have been paying attention, from the micro level, we are exactly how we are being represented by our governments, to the T. To the micro individual. Everyone just looks out for themselves and says, "Oh, you know what? Why should I take the risk?" Because there's no one wants to be the leader. Everyone wants that platform. They want the following. They want the lectures and the invitations to come and speak. But no one ever wants to say anything that, you know, oh, I don't want to be the pariah. Oh, God forbid. I don't want to be labeled as the guy who can't be controlled. That's what they see us as. You know, they say, oh, you know what, the Madden Luke's guys. You never know what you're going to listen to when you listen to their show. They're going to have some Islamists on there. They're going to have some kind of, you know, these are the big chicken roosts that we have in our Muslim Ummah right now. Bunch of chickens clucking really loud with all their followers. Bunch of leading even more chickens to become more chickens like them. Because they don't want someone to lead. They don't want to lead any. They don't want to be led by one single individual.
What you're saying totally reminds me. Remember in the Line of the Desert, Omar Mukhtar, he's talking to the Sanusis, and the Sanusis are like, man, listen, just give up. Remember, to the Italian army? And he has that word with them, right? Yeah. That's what it reminds me. Look, we have to understand, and you can probably speak about this too. Look, number one, those people who seek knowledge and teach people, that's a very important thing, right? It's very, very important. But that also comes with a level of politics that you are inevitably going to be involved with, especially the religious leaders of the Muslim world. If you think that they can speak freely in their governments, you're terribly mistaken. Years and years, generation and generation of them being pried away about when they want to speak the truth, and it becomes so cyclical that we have a generation of scholars that came to originally start off, we don't want to harm the people, we don't want them to get hurt, we don't want any more bloodshed, we don't want any more of that. That's fine, right? But it doesn't mean that scholars are always correct, especially in this issue, right? When they say, you know what, just do your tahajjud, do that, don't worry about the politics, don't worry about the boycotts, don't worry about that, everything is going to come, even to the point where, hey, this is where the Mahdi's coming, so just chill until the Mahdi comes and you could follow him, right? And we don't even know, like, if we're failing this test right here, how do you know you're not going to be following Dajjal, bro?
Yeah, bro, exactly.
I even saw some scholars, this is like the first week of this conflict, right? Some scholars even posted the hadith about the ends of times, like, you know, the Muslims are going to be suffering, and then eventually Imam Mahdi's going to come, and he says, I'm thinking, so what you're saying is, this is expected, just sit around, this is part of the plan. Just sit back and relax, and just, you know.
Because they're betting, they've made a bet, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, they've hedged a bet against you, the Muslim Ummah, that you're going to go back to the default. Our leaders, from the local level to the ones that lead the
Muslim
countries, the ones that lead the countries.
The
They've
Muslim
all
majority
hedged.
nations.
They've all hedged the bet against you, saying that you're going to go back to the status quo. You're going to
Follow suit.
follow suit.
Be a
Do
good
you know the
domesticated
reason why
animal.
they kill 8,000 people, bro? They kill 8,000 people, 3,500 children, right? Because we allow them to. America doesn't allow that to happen to their kids. You know, Russia doesn't. None of these major countries would ever allow their kids to get bombed indiscriminately. But our ummah is so pathetic and weak. We allow them to. That's why they're killing them. Because we allow it to. We as a people are so, we care less about our life than they do. I guarantee you they could kill 20,000 and we wouldn't do jack. We wouldn't do anything.
No, but I mean, they have.
I'm not saying all you guys who are listening
No,
and stuff, by the way. I'm not shaming the listeners, by the way. I know many of our listeners and many people who are concerned about the ummah. We're not talking about you. This is the general ummah. We're talking about
The people who can do something and are not doing
Yeah.
it. Those are the ones you're directing to.
But I mean,
think, no,
is this
one
really?
second, one second.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of people are doing what they can. Not everyone can do everything. I think there are few people.
There
not
are a few.
everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Who-
We're not talking about every single individual. There are exceptions.
Yeah. So you're addressing primarily the people who can do a lot more than they're doing,
Yeah.
but they're not doing for various reasons.
Exactly.
Are those the
Starting
people
with the
you're addressing?
starting with the leaders, yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's sad to say this, right? But they have killed tens of thousands of children. If you look at, everywhere from Libya
Yeah.
to Syria to Iraq, Yemen, you name it, right? You know what's really embarrassing, I would say right now? Like them or hate them, or Houthi, whatever, right? Whatever, right? Everyone knows how I feel about the
The
Shia.
Houthis, the Shias in Yemen.
Yeah. But they were able to join hands with the Yemeni government in the middle of a war. Internally, they're fighting with Saudi Arabia and managed to fire missiles at Israel. And you think about this for a moment and you're like, man, there are many other Arab countries that are not in a conflict, that don't have famine, that are not having a civil war, and they haven't decided to do that.
Yeah.
Wallahi, and there are some brothers who were laughing about that. Or Yemen.
I'm
you know
not
what?
laughing.
Oh, wallahi.
You know what came to my mind?
I thought about Jalut. I thought about the rock
no.
that threw that were in Jalut's side.
You know what came to my mind? The hadith in Abi Dawood. In the end, you will find the armies in Sham and in Yemen. And he said, if you be with the one, he asked him, Abu Hawala, he asked him, the Sahaba, Hawala asked him, who do I go? Choose for me, Rasulullah. He says, be with Sham, because Sham is the place Allah loves, right? If you can't be there, then be with the people of Yemen, because drink from their water, as you have done before, But I'm saying that, imagine these are the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is true. The armies that are going to do something are going to be, and let's be honest here for a moment. The people of Sham, they don't need Syria, Egypt or Saudi Arabia or any of these places. They don't need them. They have Allah is with them. I'm telling you right now that those people have been defending themselves for 75 years.
Can you play that video, the first video I sent? Because people need to know. Like, look, they don't
Yeah, it's
need...
in line with what you're saying. Yeah.
Go, you can talk until
It's
it
about the people of Sham.
So what I'm saying is that the people of Sham, Allah chose them. Remember that for a second. The people that live there, they are there as a reminder to the Muslim Ummah that your Ummah is in trouble.
And when you're saying Sham, are you including Palestine in that?
Palestine is Sham.
Yeah.
How can...
Yeah, of course.
It is the center of a Sham.
No, because now people, when they hear Sham, they think of Damascus.
Okay, but what is Sham? People don't even know, how did the word Sham come from? Where does it come from? What is the Shimal in Arabic? It's the north, right? It's if you look at the direction from the Kaaba, Yemen or Yameen is to the right, Shimal or Sham is to the left of the Kaaba. It's to the left. This is the area that Allah has blessed. These areas are Allah chose these people to live there. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if you want to see the condition of your ummah, look to Sham. So these people who Allah honored with being shuhada in that land, they are sitting there. Allah will reward them, but they are reminding you of where you failed. They're fine. They're going to be fine. They're telling you now in Gaza right now, they're smelling musk everywhere.
Yes.
The blood of these martyrs is making, they're sniffing it with their hand like this.
Allahu Akbar.
They're going to be fine. We are people who believe in an akhirah. But you're people who do nothing, who have power to do something, you are destroying your akhirah, pulverizing it.
Yeah.
I think that's what the question now is. I don't think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't think the question now today should be, what about the Palestinians? It's about us. What are we doing for the situation on an individual level and as a community as well? No matter where you are, whether in America, UK, Canada, Australia, it doesn't matter. What are you doing on an individual level, and what can you do as a community? Are you doing the same thing that you've been doing all along, or are you, building on that? I think that's the question.
No, you're right. That's very important.
I think he wants to play the clip real quick. I think that ready, right?
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay. See.
صلى على النبي يا معلم. اللهم صل على. احنا لما بنصور فيديوهات اقسم بالله لا بدنا فلوس ولا بدنا دعم ولا بدنا مساعدات، والله يا جماعه احنا بنصور فيديوهات عشان الامه العربيه والاسلاميه تشوف، لانه يوم القيامه ما يضلون مش حجه امام الله. يا جماعه الخير احنا وصلنا نشرب ميه اقسم بالله اشبه ميه المجاري. طلع من العبي، طلع. والله يا جماعة الخير احنا لا بدنا فلوس ولا بدنا مساعدات، بس احنا بنوصل لكم رسالة انه احنا شديد يعني وصلنا لنشرب مية مجاري، بس احنا اقسم بالله ما احنا زعلانين، والله على قلبنا زي العسل. اللهم نحتسب ذلك ابتغاء مرضاتك واجعلنا ميزان حسناتنا. بس يا عرب يا من تدعون الاسلام، شفتونا واحنا بننذبح ما تحركتوش، وشفتونا واحنا بنموت والله ما تحركتوا، شفتونا واحنا الدورة بتنزل علينا برضه ما تحركتوا، وشفتوا حاجات اقسم بالله لو واحد تاني لا شاف ولا قام وتحرك. وهاي شوفونا واحنا بنشرب ميه شبه ميه مجاري، لانه يوم القيامه فشلكوا مفر من عذاب الله، وفشلكوا حجه. احنا كل حاجه بتصير فينا بنوثقها لكم، وفلوسكم خليها لكم، وعمايركم مبارك عليكم، وصلاركم مبارك عليكم، وإن شاء الله يوم الحساب قسما بالله ستسألون وستندمون وستحاسبون. والسلام عليكم.
Okay. Can you guys? We have a lot of audio. We have a lot of audio listeners. So, can someone just give a summary of what that was?
No, go ahead. I mean, whatever. I think we could all chime in. So he started. I think there was a translation there too in English.
Yeah.
So
all he was saying in summary was this: that he's from Gaza. He's like, listen, we don't really need your money. We don't need your support or any of this stuff. We're here. We're enduring this.
We're drinking sewage water.
Yeah, but he's like, our hearts are clean. We don't have anything against you, right? He's saying that, but we're here. Our situation is dire. We're here. We're forced to drink water that's from the sewage. They have nothing to eat over there, and like we're dying every day. And he's like, but at the end of the day, he's basically saying, that there's no escaping the hisab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're going to be asked about everything that you did. You can have your money, good for you. Barakah for you. Your dua, good for you. Your salah, good for you. Right? But you're going to be asked about this, about all of this going on.
Yeah.
So he's like, we're not worried about that.
Yeah, he started off with saying, look, the water that I'm drinking, it's in a bottle, but it's sewage water. The water that falls down from the rain sometimes, and they get it off the bricks and all that kind of stuff. The other is that he said, look, these initial bombings happened, you guys didn't move. This all happened, they were destroying us, they were moving us from this place to this place, you still didn't move. This happened, all these other things happened, you still didn't move. So we know we're on our own right now, and we're fine with that. We have satisfaction in Allah, but you guys are going to have to stand in front of Allah, and all of you are going to have to respond, right? We're doing what we're going to do, and inshallah, in his sense that he's saying, obviously, we're doing our best, and we're going to pass, inshallah, but you guys are going to have to stand in front of Allah, and every single one of you guys are going to be asked, right? So that's crazy, bro.
No, also, the other important thing he says is like, look, these videos we're making, we're not just putting it out there so you know what's happening. Most of you already know what's happening. But I think indirectly what he's saying is this is going to be used against you.
SubhanAllah.
This is going to be used against you. You saw our situation. You saw our kids being killed. You saw the mothers being blown into pieces. You saw elderly being killed. You saw, like villages and villages being wiped out. But what did you do about it? Nothing. You had parties. You had a Halloween party. You had boxers and movie stars and all of this. It's a completely different world. You wouldn't even believe that this is happening on the same day.
Put yourself in their shoes.
On the same day.
Put yourself in their shoes. What if this was happening to you and you found out the whole Muslim world had Shakira over? The Muslim world was having the Halloween celebration. The Muslim world was just making condemnations and not actually making a move. That they're still making deals, right? And there's, yeah, dude, that's super disheartening.
I mean, look at the level of hypocrisy. I don't even know any other word that can be used to describe this other than hypocrisy. You had the Queen of Jordan, Rania, go on CNN and give a interview to Christiana Amanpour, right? She gave a good interview. She said it's a two-phase thing. You know, the Palestinians are suffering and we're being killed and no one cares about us and all this. It was a good interview. She did a good job. But you must understand, for someone at that level, whose husband is the king, she's the queen of the country, to give an interview, it doesn't happen like that. And what she's going to talk about is, you know, she just didn't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to do an interview. Everything is controlled, right? Yeah. A couple of days later, this article comes out, I'm sure you guys saw, that Jordan is actually facilitating the delivery of the weapons to the country that she just talked about.
Wow.
So, I mean, how do you even connect the two? How do you connect the two?
But that's the thing. Look, these games, and that's why I don't expect a lot of people to understand. Because most people, look, they're not going to be able to peel all these layers. That's why this is so deceptive and why I call it Dajjalic, right? It's like you would imagine that Shayateen would see this and they would get embarrassed with how evil this is and how many layers they are. There's so many layers and there's so much reading you have to do to get a small piece of information, to even connect the dot. Like sometimes you get a piece of information, you don't know where to connect it, right? Because you're just reading something, but you don't know what game is being played. But it's just so intricate and so destructive, you know.
Even the organization
for what? For what? It's just for money and power.
That's
like
it.
For stuff that's going
That's
to
all
be
it
going
comes down
away.
to. That's all it comes
It's going
down
to go
to.
away. And you know what? It's for people that have granted you power before and have taken it from you before. No matter, even if you were playing with their rules. We have examples of leaders, like them or hate them, but they played by the rules and they got deposed.
Yep.
They got humiliated. They got stripped. Their money got taken. They were left like dogs. They got stabbed in the buttocks on live TV. Yeah. Literally got sodomized on live TV. I'm saying this is what happens to these same people who chase this stuff, right? And I'm saying that for what? For what?
No, look. This is what I said. I told you guys this, and I'll say this here too. Like, you look at all the rich and powerful countries. You know, everyone has an excuse, right? Jordan has an excuse. Egypt has an excuse. What about us? What about me? What about that? It's, you know, Saudi Arabia or any of those countries that have billions and billions in arms and weapons and all those things that can actually do something, right? The excuse is, oh, you know, we have to look out for our interests and all that. And I say this: even if one single country, okay, is able to do some, you know, take a constructive action, okay, whatever that may be, okay, the entire ummah, 1.9 billion, are going to stand with them.
You're right.
And they're going to forget everything that they've done in the past, all the treacheries, everything. This is a golden opportunity for them. Now, you know what? We're actually going to step in and do something about this. We have, you know, everything that you can think of. We don't know what we're going to use it against. When are we going to use this? We purchased billions and billions in weapons against who?
They're rotting away in factories.
Do you know what's even more crazy to me? There's no secret that America's hegemony in that region is dwindling. Right? We've talked about this many times. I'm not saying these people are good people or whatever, but there are other governments out there that do not want American hegemony in that region. And they're open and willing to take action if you take action. You don't necessarily have to say that we agree with you or we love you or we want to make a deal with you. You just have to act. Because it's in their interest to act when you act. It's unprecedented. This is not the 1990s. These countries we're speaking about, they have expert technology. They have, you know, well-developed technology. They can certainly bring pressure. And the reason why they're going to act is because if you get involved, that hurts their economies. And so they're forced to act. Not because they like you, not because they love you or they're standing up for justice, but because you mean something to them economically. That's leveraging power. If there's a time, any time, in my whole existence, life, being on this earth, for these people to make a move and have support, it is now. Now is the time to do it.
Yes, sir.
Like now is the time where where this chaotic relationship with the Middle East it's unraveling, and there's other parties who are getting involved that are willing to say, hey, look, we're giving you invitations to things like BRICS. We're willing to mediate between other parties that are there. We're willing to invest in your countries without regime change, without package deals about gender neutrality and all this nonsense, right? We're willing to do it because we just want money. We want your money. There's been no better time than now to gravitate toward, for those countries that want a piece of your money to get involved. Even from a secular perspective, I lost hope appealing to their religion. There's no point in appealing to them to say fear Allah. Okay, there's no point. At least how I view it. But I mean, even in your interest, right now, there's being enchained under American control is not something that is it's not pleasant for them. They're forced to do things that even they themselves don't like to do. Right? So you have an opportunity from a secular perspective, a political perspective, to break those chains, and you're unwilling to act. And this reminds me of the story of the Mongols that came and invaded. Remember that famous story about the Mongol that came in there, and the lady that came into Baghdad after they had ravaged it and pillaged it, and she found a guy coming to the masjid, and she's like, how dare you enter the masjid while I'm here? Wait for me to go bring my axe and I'll come back and execute you. And that man was so terrified that he waited there for a Mongol woman to execute him in the masjid.
Or the Mongol fighter who took the golden knobs at the palace of the Abbasids,
right.
At the Abbasid palace, and he took the golden knobs. Perhaps if you had melted this golden knob and sold it and made you use that money to make weapons, you would have won against us.
Wow.
So people don't understand like what's at stake. Like if you studied the religion at all, even as a beginner, what Allah's sunnah is, with His ummahs, that don't get the job done. What happened to the Ayyubids and the Abbasids rather? They were destroyed by the Mongols, and Allah put in another ummah that could get the job done. Mm-hmm. That's what's at stake, and these people don't understand it.
And look at this, by the way. Look how arrogant they were. They said that Allah is upset with you, and He sent us to punish you.
Yeah, because of bad business transaction. Yeah.
Imagine a kafir.
We are your Lord's punishment,
wrath upon you.
Yeah.
They're invoking Allah before they are.
Yeah.
You know the video that we watched, right? Did that send chills down your spine?
Of course it did.
Did that not shake you to your core?
Yeah.
You know why? Because you have a heart. Every single one. If that impacted you, I mean, I don't know how it cannot impact anyone. But guess what? The people that it should be impacting, it's not impacting. Which reminds me that that I saw a video not too long ago. One of the locals asked a scholar in Palestine himself, like, you know, hey, how come, you know, like you guys don't seek help from your neighboring countries, you know, from the Muslim countries? And you know what he said? He said, we don't seek assistance from them because in our faith, seeking assistance from dead is shirk. Okay? That's why we don't seek any assistance from them. Because they're dead.
Wow.
Their hearts are dead.
That is profound. That is profound. I've never heard that.
That's a great answer.
I've never heard that. That is profound.
So we don't commit shirk.
Allahu Akbar.
We're not mushriks. We're not going to ask for the dead for assistance.
For those listening here, when we're talking about making dua, like for example, we can make tawassul, which is dua to living people. But the form of prohibited dua or seeking assistance or means of approach to Allah is istighatha, which means that you go ask the dead people. Right? So he's saying that basically that these leaders are dead in their hearts. Like
yeah, but this says it's even more of a shirk because you're literally going to the dead person asking them directly for what
that's what I'm trying to say,
yeah. Wow, that's pretty impressive. I'd never heard of that. But Sam, dude, we're on a great roll here. I'm learning a lot in the in this process, but the sacrifice that you were referring to, I get now a few weeks ago what you were saying, that nobody wants to move, nobody wants to do, but this boycott of American products, this is something that nobody actually talks about. Look, what does this entail? I know it's a very simple question, but what does this entail? Because look, what I'm thinking about is this: you boycott American products. Well, what are you going to end up buying then? What are you going to end up doing then? Right? That's the first thing. Yeah. And what comes to our mind is this self-preservation that you're referring to. That how much am I willing to sacrifice? Am I willing to live on rice and salt? Because at least if you want to show solidarity with the Palestinians, are you willing to live on rice and salt until this dilemma finishes? Right? But if you can... It's a
good question, and some people have asked me about it.
American boycott.
And I said, look, when you're in the United States, obviously for American Muslims, it's going to be difficult. You do your best. You just select the most visible American companies, McDonald's, Burger King, Baskin Robbins, typically other very recognizable American countries that are American, that are generally identified around the world as American. They're huge companies, right? That's for American Muslims. Okay, maybe they can just select a few that they could target, but for the wider Muslim body, imagine not just the Muslim body, even let's just say you get everyone who's sympathetic to Palestine involved. Imagine the crushing weight of that kind of a boycott on American products all across the world. How many calls will be made to the White House from those CEOs when those companies' profit margins are down?
Yeah.
That will be way more exponentially of hit those the power brokers much more harder than any writing campaign to your senator or parliament member of parliament. Anything, any single thing that you could do, you have that one thing that they value the most is your dollar. That's what their whole thirst is. They want to snatch that from you so that they can put it in their pocket, and you're not giving it to them, and that pisses them off. That's what their world economy is built on.
And it works. It works because they had done it recently for France, for the French products.
It worked so much that they banned it. They banned it in Texas, BDS movements.
They
and
tried to. They said if you basically what they tried to do is they tried to say because of the hurricane, if you agree for the to be BDS, you can't get federal funding for your.
No, they went farther than that. Now, if you are even a contractor or working with the government at all, and you have signed on to BDS in any way, you cannot work with the Texas government or be a contractor of theirs.
Yeah.
What do you mean signed on to it?
Like meaning that you're an advocate.
Agreed. Yeah, like you said,
you support BDS.
You support BDS.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, look.
Which is a clear violation of freedom of speech.
It is.
Yeah, I think
that's
Shipley
about
challenged that,
BS.
by the way.
But look, listen, I agree with you partially that here in the U.S. we can't really do a lot. But I think there's plenty that we can do, and this goes back to what I had talked about earlier about educating others, people who are on the fence, that middle group of people that we talked about, not the one on this side, not the one on that side, the one in the middle who's trying to educate themselves. And I think this is where the leadership from the Muslim community, who's been in this space for a while, a more a strategy is needed from them. Now, what you're talking about, everyone is talking about that. Your WhatsApp groups are filled with, boycott and boycott. But what you get in that list is 100, 200 products. You're going to die of hunger. You're not going to be able to eat anything. So why don't we refine that a little bit and share maybe 2 to 3 items that is going to have the most impact?
Well, they're doing it with McDonald's, right? But the idea is...
Not here. I don't think they're doing it here.
Well, even in America, we're not that much of a consumer over here to make that much of an impact. But if you're just targeting, you're just getting the McDonald's CEO, right? But if you have a group of companies that are the most visible, identifiable American companies in around the world, forget about just the Muslim world, around the world, people who are interested in doing business overseas. There's many Microsoft, etc. There's many alternatives to those. You don't necessarily have to starve by not doing business with Microsoft. There's many other companies that have other products that your business can choose, and you could choose that. You can hurt the American thirst for blood in the Middle East, or their unenduring support for Israel by giving them a punch in the jewels,
matters the most.
Where it matters the most.
Yeah.
So this is where the leadership that we're talking about, the Muslim leadership, the political leadership or the religious leadership, this is what I'm talking about, is to fine-tune what we're already doing. For example, we're doing there's been 5-6 protests here, at least here in Chicago. Thousands of people turned out.
Yeah.
But what are you saying? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. The standard chants that you're doing, but are you really accomplishing anything? Yes, I'm not against it. I think it is.
But you're not giving direction, is what you're saying.
Yes, it could be much more impactful than it is right now.
Yeah.
If you had people at this same protest saying that, don't give money to this particular corporation, whatever it is, or firm, whatever it is. That's going to be much more impactful than you waving a sign saying Palestinian lives matter. Of course they matter. Everyone knows that. People know that.
Yeah.
What happens after you come home? It's just a feel-good activity that you're going to, that you feel like you've done something.
Same with the BLM stuff, remember?
And again, I'm not saying
they
I'm
did the
not
same
against
stuff. They did the
people
marches.
going.
They gave no direction to their community. The situation of black people in this country is the same from before to now. They probably are doing being a bit more careful in their
hiring processes.
Or at least being more involved in hiring people and of color and stuff like that. But other than that, there's very little to no change across the board.
Yeah, and it also gave people of color or colored folk a green light to be racist towards white people without any ramifications.
Yeah,
right. You can say
you can say
white
all kinds
guilt, white whatever,
white supremacy.
Supremacy. I mean, you can talk about white people and make fun of white people all day. Comedians were already doing that for a long time in SNL, but now it's just more open about
it's made people more racist.
It has, in the sense, it just flipped from black to white.
It didn't give any direction, any meaningful impact, change. How can you, as a community, figure out where grassroots problems are in underfunded, impoverished black communities?
So do we have to give up?
Same thing with this.
We have to give up watching the UFC.
So look, that's a great question.
Well,
but
if it was in Riyadh, I didn't watch that godforsaken fight with what's his name?
I bootlegged it. Does that count?
If you bootlegged it, it's fine.
Okay.
So check this out. Look, I think there's 2 points here. The first is, I think, which is really important, which will hit America very, very strongly in a sense of, some type of effect, which is through the corporations, right? And I think when you talk about specific corporations, I think that we have to engineer that to see which one would be the most effective if you're going to go out and protest. Look, what you're saying, and this is what I think is between the lines, you're already out there, you're already in some situations putting your life in danger to go protest. Yes, it's important to talk about Palestine and Palestinian lives, which matter, which they're extremely valuable. But if you're already out there, it's cool to chant those things, but also put pressure on those corporations that have a very, very strong hand on the revenue of Israel, right? And I think that's very, very important. The other thing that you mentioned, look, maybe I'm making this oversimplistic. You said if you were to boycott like 200 products, you'd end up dying, right? I see two things in that. I see the first thing is that the boycott of all of these products, the margins we're mentioning, like what's the percentage of Muslims in
By the way, I don't think that's true. In Jordan, the boycotts are working.
But
the Jordan market
I'm
has
talking about
changed.
here. Of course it's working.
In the United States.
Work.
So if it's 1 point, let's say Muslims are 1.2%, between 1.2 and 1.6% of the United States, right? But Muslims usually think that it's only going to be Muslims. There's going to be other people that follow, and don't be surprised if you go on a boycott and you boycott everything, and let's just say hypothetical that you're living on rice and salt, right? That's it. I wouldn't be surprised if there were more non-Muslims than Muslims that comply with this boycott.
Well,
that's what I'm
I think
saying,
we've seen
right?
Starbucks, right? Their stocks have definitely, the
Yes.
price decreased,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it works.
Starbucks definitely took a hit. Yeah.
Yeah, it took a hit. And so they can work as long as they're concentrated efforts and you don't convolute
That's what I'm
lists,
trying to say. Concentrated
right?
efforts.
If
yes.
you simply choose a few that you do for every 3-4 months, you say, okay, this one's going to be the one. Next 4 months we do this one. So you equally pain all of them, because see, once they get hurt and then they get back to normal, they don't want to hurt again, right? You have to give them something back. And the reason why is because what happens is that for those of you that work in corporate America, every fiscal year, everybody gets ready for their bonus. And that's contingent on how well your business performed that year, right? If you didn't hit your earmarks or the benchmarks you wanted for the year, well, sorry, you get less of a bonus this year. Or there may not be a bonus. So people are like, oh, man, what the hell?
They're forced to move, yeah.
Right. And so, no, they feel it. They feel economically, like, why did we profit? Oh, well, we had a bad year this year. They can't say, oh, because of COVID. We had a bad year this year because of the boycotts.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes a reason for, oh, well, why are they boycotting? Right? I mean, other people, it also helps, right? But it has to be concentrated. It cannot just be like this 1,000-page list that we get every time we open up Twitter, right? And say, no one's gonna remember that, right? It's got to be something.
That's
focused.
what I'm saying. Like, you got people like just blindly forwarding messages, boycott this, and there's like 50 products in it. You don't even, they themselves are not doing it.
Yeah.
But I want to mention 2 points here. You talked a little bit about, American products and all that. I want to make it clear. I don't know if you guys would agree with this or not, but I would say this is not about being against America. It's about against corporations who are funding money to a place that is killing innocent men, women, and children. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
It's not about,
No, I'm calling for anyone, whether you're a corporation who is funding the Israeli state or not. I'm saying if you want to bring change, you have to hurt them in the wallets, and that's when people will do. And listen, you don't have to have a million different items that you can boycott. There's many. You're not going to starve. There's many alternatives. The Jordanian market has already shifted to local goods and stuff like that, where the regular consumers are buying things that are locally produced. And
no, I'm not disagreeing with you.
We can go to farmers markets.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with all of that. What I'm saying is, going back to the point that you mentioned and what we talked about earlier, I think part of this is educating ourselves and others who we want to work with us as to why we're doing this. The reason why we're doing this is because this is where the money is going towards. That's why we're doing it. I think
on a monetary level.
Ultimately, this is not even the solution, guys. Because what's the American government going to do as a control? Let's just see how this plays out. Let's just say the boycott actually works. They'll just subsidize it using tax dollars, and they'll say, hey, you know what? Because this is the betterment of our country and where we're headed towards, we'll subsidize your losses with, and we'll try to make up the margins, the loss of revenue. So they'll, but ultimately it's something you've done. You have played a pivotal part in the shift of how Americans think, or at least the government thinks, right, about how their approach is and how you've squeezed them, and they can't keep doing subsidizing because they have to keep printing more money to do that.
And they have to justify the tax dollars being spent, right? They can't say, oh, we're going to keep giving it off. They're going to say, hey, why is this problem happening, right? Because people look at the CBO, they look at the Congressional Budget Office, like, hey, why are federal tax dollars going this way? What's the reason why we have to subsidize McDonald's or subsidize Nike? Why are we doing that, right? These are multi-billion-dollar corporations. Why are we doing that, right? So these questions get asked, and it becomes unjustifiable, right? Like we can understand, for example, the farmers area, right, like corn and potato, because obviously price regulation and fluctuation, we understand that, right? Why they subsidize, right? For example, homes and development projects, we understand that. But when you're giving someone like, I don't know, I'll give you a small example. Like if I'll just say, like, let's say you give Nike, a few $1 billion a year. Why does Nike deserve that? Like, what is essential about Nike? Right? And this idea. So, and then what happens is when they go to write their budget, they're going to say, hey guys, we're going to have to calculate this year because the BDS is looking kind of strong. We might have to put more money again. Oh my God, that's taking away from our other stuff. So they have to then be conscious every time they make a budgetary decision, right? Hey, we have to include the fact that a lot of people are pissed off over here and they're not going to spend their money, right? And it makes them conscious of it.
It becomes a part of a formula now.
Right, yes.
No, I know what you're saying. But can we move on to the International Union of Muslim Scholars article, if you guys don't mind? I mean,
does that really mean anything?
So, well, that's what I want to discuss. That's what I want to ask.
Okay.
And like, why now?
So I'm bringing it up. Go ahead, and why don't you just give the pretext about what that organization is?
Did you sign it?
No, I didn't sign it. So
I think I don't want to say anything because I think some of the scholars that you guys even studied under are under.
No, there's a lot altogether. Look, they have like an unofficial membership of like 90,000 people. Yeah. Right. Look, it was started in 2004. Shaykh Omer Haqqani, rahimahullah, he passed away last year. They had a certain philosophy. Look, Shaykh Omer Haqqani, and the group is genuinely started by the academic, scholars, spiritual guild of the Muslim Brotherhood, right? Of the Ikhwan. generally, right? And when this started, they really, really wanted to form a coalition with Muslim Shias and Ibadis that we have to be united on a front of talking about contemporary issues in the Muslim world, which can have an effect, and we're going to unite. We're not going to get politically involved. We're just going to unite people on Islamic traditional values type thing, right? And look, they had a goal. They wanted to, get all these moving parts, and they wanted to get this whole thing moving. And, they updated their site about current issues. They've talked about Syria. They've talked about Palestine. They've talked about a lot of these issues in the light of, the Quran, the Sunnah, and Islamic tradition. When I read this, just the title of, the Muslim scholars, the International Union of Muslim Scholars, who have many reputable scholars in the Muslim world, to be, very fair and very honest, very much people that the Muslim world respects, all the way from Canada, the Jamal Badawis, to Sheikh Yusuf Qardawi, to Qaradaghi from Asham.
Qardawi, he's dead.
Qaradaghi.
Oh, I think
yeah. Who's now the president. Dr. Salim Al-Awa, who's an attorney and Islamic studies teacher in Egypt, and Islamic studies professor. People who are pretty influential, right? But when I saw the title, which was that a fatwa being issued by the the International Union of Muslim Scholars, of the Muslim armies to start mobilizing, and it becomes hard for them to defend the Muslim world now, especially in Palestine. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
The Islamic scholars issue fatwa saying Arab regimes must intervene to save Gaza. MashaAllah. The influential International Union of Muslim Scholars has issued a fatwa saying that Arab regimes and armies are required by Islamic Sharia to intervene urgently to save Gaza from genocide and mass destruction. The body of scholars singled out countries bordering Palestine, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon, and said that military intervention is a Sharia obligation upon them. It also said that leaving Gaza and Palestine to be annihilated and destroyed is a betrayal of Allah and His Messenger, peace be upon him, and is one of the greatest sins before Allah Almighty. The International Union of Muslim Scholars was founded by Sheikh Yusuf Al-Qardawi and is headquartered in Qatar, but is comprised of leading scholars from all around the globe.
They have offices in different parts of the Muslim world, even Africa, Libya, Egypt.
Thank you, 5 pillars for that.
Very informative. But now the question...
Should I read the statement? or
Yeah, please, if you want. It's pretty lengthy, but I think it's a good read.
Well, maybe read a portion of it.
Yeah. Just read the top of every bullet point. I think it's like 8 bullet points or something.
Yeah, so let's just read the bullet points. Here we go. Praise be to God, the supporter of the Mujahideen and the helper of the oppressed, the answer to the prayers of the distressed, the merciful to women and children, orphans and the needy, the defeater of occupying tyrants, the one who shakes the foundations of aggressing infidels, the disappointer of the hopes of hypocrites and the discouraged, and the reviver of the consciousness of the discerning. As to what follows, the Ijtihad and Fatwa Committee of the International Union of Muslim Scholars is in a permanent and ongoing meeting to follow up on this brutal aggression by the criminal Zionists against the people of Gaza. This is to proclaim that the truth and explain the duty of the Ummah towards what's happening to the people of Gaza, and based on that legal duty of scholars towards the Ummah's first issue, the issue of Palestine. It issued a fatwa as follows. Point 1. It's legally required for the ruling regimes and official armies to intervene urgently to save Gaza from genocide and comprehensive destruction, in full commitment to the duty of supporting Palestine religiously, politically, legally, and morally, in accordance with international covenants and strategic interests in the region and the Ummah, and in accordance with legitimate mandates over the people. Number 2, the duty of military invention and supply of military equipment and expertise is legally binding according to the following. I'm not going to read the bullet points, but basically it says the surrounding countries in Palestine interior. Point 3, It is the legal duty of scholars, elites, and all kinds of bodies to take urgent action to carry out their duty. From the pressure on the ruling regimes, official armies, and legislative, parliamentary, and judicial political institutions to intervene urgently and act quickly, and to bear their religious, historical, constitutional, and strategic responsibilities. Point 4. The most dangerous thing that afflicts people is a state of despair in achieving their rights and repelling injustices against them, which may herald general unrest, whose extent and outcome only God knows, especially in the face of the recent Zionist aggression with full, scandalous, and provocative Western support. Point 5. Regarding the comprehensive Western support, military, financial, media, diplomatic, and strategic, it's imperative for Arab and Islamic countries to reciprocate militarily, financially, in the media, diplomatically, and strategically in order to achieve international balance and prevent tyranny that may be met with unrest, which may herald collapse. Point 6. Jihad and supply of equipment in Palestine are a legitimate duty and an Islamic and humanitarian responsibility. It is forbidden by Islamic law to remain silent about aggression and not repel it with the movement of ruling regimes and official armies. Leaving Gaza, Al-Aqsa, Jerusalem, and Palestine for annihilation and destruction is a betrayal of God, His messenger, and the believers, and among the greatest of major sins and the greatest of sins with God Almighty. So that's basically it. It's calling on basically support of every institution you have to reciprocate or against the aggression, the Zionist aggression, using any available means that you have, whether it's media or military, financial, diplomatic, any kind of avenue that you can take as a government. You have it's a binding obligation on you. Now, whether or not these governments give any attention to this committee of luminaries, amazing individuals all across the board. When you look at their roster, it's incredible. It's just sad that to me that it took 8,000 people dying for them to. I mean, this has been almost a month now, right? Yeah. And it took them a while, but it's done, right? Water on the bridge. It's done. It came out. All right. I'm trying to offer an olive branch that this came out. At least it didn't take this long for. Remember navigating differences? How long that took?
Yeah.
This committee moved a lot faster, I guess, comparatively. And let's say.
No, look. We can be pessimistic. And be like, where were they? All these years ago, and this and that. Since 2004, they did talk about things. Even Yusuf Qaradawi was accused of being a terrorist organization, the spiritual terrorist. They had all these things for him because he talked about the martyrdom operations and all that put him on the map and all that kind of stuff, right? So there's a few things, but look at the last paragraph. There's one thing which will make many people feel uncomfortable now because it's been out of our vocabulary for a long time in its proper context. And he's not talking about the commercials that we've seen of, strapping my hijab on is my jihad. Taking the bus every day for work is my jihad. Having to use the bathroom and putting my foot in the sink is my jihad. That's not what they're referring to anymore, right?
Yeah. So
they have brought out this word that has become an alien for a very, very long time. And I think, look, people can say it took a month or whatever the case is. We can always wish something happened. But my question is to us and everybody else just listening, and those people who understand how much of an effect the International Union of Muslim Scholars has. The Muslim Union of International Scholars has a academic effect on those people who actually follow the union itself on an academic level. On a majority level, on a policy level, I hope it does. We have to now imagine, and hopefully someone's going to hear and it's going to have some effect. But in reality, Allah reward them for issuing this fatwa and bringing back the J word. But it's going to fall on deaf ears. And on an international level, these guys who are in power and the ruling parties, they don't even care about this kind of stuff. They can be like, that's where this is going right now, but whatever. It's like one of those.
Yeah, well, no, but the thing is, look, I think I agree with you what you said. I think a lot of your listeners and a lot of common day folk, everyday folks probably have not even heard of this organization. Okay, including a lot of the scholars as well. I think this organization was limited to people from a certain background and a certain mindset, and that's who it catered to. It's unfortunate, even though it goes against what they said it was. But you look at the structure, you look at the history. That's how it was. But the thing is, unfortunately, this organization was labeled as a terrorist organization by the Muslim countries.
I forgot about that.
Qatar
Saudi,
and Bahrain and UAE and Egypt. Yeah. They already considered this an illegal terrorist organization. Yeah. So you think they're going to act on their fatwa now?
No.
I mean, come on.
I think the bigger problem is that I don't think we expected the governments to do something from this. I'm looking at it from a perspective of they have been severely handicapped and cannot really address the people anymore. Because when you start addressing fatwa for the people, this has to come down from the government.
Yeah.
They can take this as a nasiha to the government, right? That's fine, all dandy. But if you're trying to mobilize people, then it becomes a problem. I personally believe that this is a message to the people.
I think so too.
Right?
I agree.
But the problem with that is this. Many of them have been complacent with the way the rulers have turned their countries, and religion has taken a back seat. They no longer have that appeal and authority and respect that the Muslim Ummah once gave them, especially in these lands.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't want to go in specific about what countries these are, but scholars used to be celebrities. Like they would drop anything for them, right? And if they said something, it was super valuable and important. Now, it's irrelevant. They because what they did is they effectively neutralized them for so long, for at least the last 3 decades. The importance of their words is no longer there. These are just the old people. It's the old way of thinking. We have a new Islam. We have a more modern Islam. So you can listen to them, but this is not where we're headed.
Yeah.
So,
old folk. They're the old folk.
And then they busied their people with, deals on the table and music concerts and traveling and new developments and investments. Right? So what good is this anymore? That's the old way. Yeah. So even if they can address the people, they're not threatened by it. Why? Because they've been neutralized. The influence they have has been neutralized.
Yeah. And at the end, a lot of people may see them as a...
before we kind of wrap this one up, I was thinking about this too. And the ayah in the Quran, right? It was وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ وَلَا تَعْلُنَّ علوا كبيرة. Can you talk about that? Because I'm thinking a lot of people are talking about this now, like that issue of marratain. Like this is the time where they've already disobeyed Allah once when they said, we're going to stay here, you and your Lord go fight. Yeah. We're going to stay here and not do anything about it, right? Yeah. Because in there, the Jabbari, whatever, the whole ayah, right? Where they first decided to disobey Musa, when Allah ordered them to go to the land, they decided to just sit back and do nothing. Yeah. Right?
No, the treaty that Allah made with Bani Israel is that, look, if you want to know, if you're reading between the lines,
Wait, before we get there, let me just do give the in English so maybe we can understand. So it says, and we warn the children of Israel, Bani Israel, in the scripture, you will certainly cause corruption in the land twice, and you will become extremely arrogant. Yeah. And then the following verses talk about how when the first of the 2 warnings would come to you or come to pass, we would send against you some of our servants of great might who would ravage your homes, and this would be a warning fulfilled.
Yeah. Yeah, so look, a lot of people are claiming that because of this verse, this is the end of Israel, right? And it may as well, it might be, only Allah knows that. But them causing mischief and grief and terrorism on this land, not just 2 times but multiple times, is this basically them becoming arrogant and just not listening to anybody and doing whatever they want to do? Is this on a worldly level going to cause their destruction because they've become reckless now. But is that recklessness also something that Allah is referring to as Bani Israel? Because look, the Quran speaks to all times and places. There's many things that unravel themselves, even though it's for the time of the revelation in itself, in the lifetime of Rasulullah, but they continue happening, right? So, I mean, look, it's good to bring the verses of Quran back into this, but there's people out there, saying, okay, this is it. Well, we don't know that for sure. This is not it. We don't know if this is destruction of Israel because of this verse, right? But it's something to think about for sure. It's something to think about for sure.
But we know about the hadith: behind every rock, behind every tree.
Yes, sir.
That's what I think. Every time they do those mocking, those Halloween costumes they're putting on, the Israelis are wearing like a woman who's bombed out, and they're wearing a dress.
So many videos,
mocking them and stuff. I'm like, one day.
But you know what's ironic is when you see how inhumane they are, right? You understand what some of these verses of the Quran mean.
Yeah.
Right? You understand what some of these verses mean, and even the verses like in Surah Al-Hashr where it says that you would see it. Like you see them be like they look like they're unified on the outside, but then but their hearts are divided. Like these, because you see even internally, like how terrified they are of one another. Like they all belong to the land, and then the minute something happens, they're on the flight off to New Jersey, New York, Miami. They're going to Australia.
No loyalty.
The airports are packed, and then like the government has to say, no, don't leave, 2-week ban. And then internally, they're like fighting each other. Even I saw videos right now of Orthodox Jews in the area inside of where they're rounding them up and fighting them now, right? And like the IDF is saying, I don't want to fight. This is too crazy. And there's videos coming out, by the way. I just want to say this as well, too. We take this with a grain of salt. I just want to end this on a positive note. There are videos that are circulating and brothers that are in Jordan that are connected with people in Gaza. And they are coming out with videos of miracles on the battlefield. There are videos and reports of people like saying that when they entered the area along with the Americans, something happened to them, and their feet became like heavy and extremely pained and deformed. And I was like, okay, maybe there's someone just mentioning this to boost the morale of the people. But I saw a video of this. Like I saw a video of there were like half the soldiers were attending to the other half that had foot problems. And then they quoted a video of an Israeli general who was saying, we don't know what we're fighting. It's almost like we're fighting ghosts. I don't know if he means that because of the guerrilla warfare tactic, or if it's the malaika, Allahu Alam, right? There's something else that's fighting. Another one said, one of the IDF soldiers was saying that even though we had 10, 15, 20 in our platoon, we're going in, and we have this feeling that there's an overwhelming presence, like there's a big person waiting or big army waiting for us, and we get there, it's one person. It's just these are things that are happening, along with the most common one we know about, the blood of the martyrs smelling like musk and these things, right? But these are Ayatul Rahman. And for those of you who know that reference, you'll know what I'm talking about. But the thing is that Allah gives people signs. Allah strengthens people in ways that you never see. Anything can be a soldier of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The wind, the air, even poison from a snake bite, whatever, it can all be a soldier of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they don't need, and it's just a reminder. I know we feel bad. Wallahi, the people of Ahl al-Gaza, Ahl al-Gaza does not need anything from you people. We're only doing this because we're accountable for this. But Allah takes care of people. Allah will take care of Asham. The same thing that Abdul Muttalib told Abraha. Allah is the Lord of this house, and He'll take care of it. Allah owns Asham. That's his beloved place. He's gonna protect that place, and He's gonna make sure the right is done there, right? But now this is about us. Have we fulfilled that oath? Can we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, listen, I did what I could do from where I am. Am I content with what I did? And this is just it's not for the people. I'm not saying anybody listening, you, us, all of us. Is this podcast enough? Is that enough to say, oh, okay, we did our part?
Yeah, you're right.
Are we content with that answer? Because I'm telling you right now that things like this are defining moments for Muslims. This has happened in history. Some Muslims decided we can't do anything. We'll accept the oppression. We'll be silent. We'll join hands with them. And then later we can become powerful and come back. And some said no. And those figures that said, the ones who agreed with the oppression, they became nameless in history. And even in the book of Allah for their good deeds. But the ones that took a stand, the ones that said something and did something about it, history remembers them.
You're right.
They become people like Imam Ahl Sunnah. They become people like Ibn Taymiyyah. They become people like this who remember throughout history. Even the enemies who hate them, his opponents who hate them theologically, have to respect him.
Mm-hmm.
Things like this.
No, you talked about this. I think we're about to come to a conclusion, right? I want to end on a positive note here. And I want to talk about briefly, real quick, about, something that's impacting our communities. And that's what we're seeing a lot of, is that a lot of people are emotionally impacted by this, right? You see many masjids, many organizations are holding gatherings or events, spiritual healing and that type of thing, because Muslims are not used to seeing these kinds of things, and it's something new for them, and a lot of people are losing hope in this as well, saying there's no hope, there's no future, what's going to happen, and all of this. But I want to refer everyone, including myself, to just two verses. Number one is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about this in the Quran, that everyone is going to be tested about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. No, he says, أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ وَلَمَّا يَأْتِكُمْ مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ خَلَوْا مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. And I'll read the translation of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do you think you're going to enter paradise without being tested like the ones that came before you? So this is something, and this is a test for everyone, for us and for them. If every single person is going through a different test, the test is not the same. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَسَّتْهُمُ الْبَأْسَاءُ وَالضَّرَّاءُ وَزُلْزِلُوا حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ. And they said that they were tested with what? وَالْبَأْسَاءُ وَالضَّرَّاءُ وَزُلْزِلُوا. That they were tested with poverty, that they were tested with ailments, and وَزُلْزِلُوا. That's something that shook shook them up. وَزُلْزِلُوا, that shook their faith. وَزُلْزِلُوا حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ. So much so that even the previous prophets and messengers, they said what? وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ. And those who were the believers with them, they said what? Mata Nasrullah. That's what we're saying now. Mata Nasrullah. Where is the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When is it going to come? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised us, Ala inna Nasrullahi qareeb, that the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the victory from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to come. There is no will it or will it not. It is going to come. When it's going to come, we don't know that. Until then, we must do our part on an individual level, on a community level, and on a global level.
Yes, sir.
Because that's what we're going to be held accountable for. You talk about this podcast. Yes, I think this is impactful. We are playing a role in the overall picture. We're all doing everything that we can. If you wanted to, you could have this podcast today, talk about something else, talk about cricket, or the Riyadh season, or the drone show that they had in Dubai. It was so great. You could talk about anything.
Saudi Arabia is going to host the World Cup.
World Cup. They're hosting the World Cup. You can talk about many things or any other thing, but you're not. You're choosing to use this platform to talk about these issues, to bring awareness to the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you're doing your part, and this is what we're going to be held accountable for. And the last thing. And this is I'll just take 30 seconds to talk about this. Look, many of us are feeling incredibly sad. And we're impacted emotionally by the visuals that we're seeing, especially of the children, especially of the babies.
Over and over and
kids.
over,
in the hospital, laying in the hospital, like missing body parts. Like, this is not real life. Some people are saying, like, this looks like a video game or it's a movie. It can't be real. How can the world remain silent about this? We don't need to be feeling sorry for those who are no longer with us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take care of them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the verse that I recited, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ, those who say Allah is one. Allah is our Rabb, our Lord, our Allah. We believe in Him. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, and then they stood firm on it. They didn't deviate. You saw the video. There's so many videos that you've seen. People are saying, do whatever you want. You want to bomb us again? Bomb us again. People have lost their family. Entire generations have been wiped out. We're not leaving this land. This land belongs to us. We're not leaving. Do whatever you want. You want to kill us? Kill us. We're not doing anything. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. That is standing firm. تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends angels on them. Malaika. La takhafu, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid for what is to come. For paradise is promised to you. Wala tahzanu, and don't be saddened about what you're leaving behind. Your relatives, your loved ones, your families, don't worry about them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take care of them. Wa abshiru bil jannah. Wa abshiru bil jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them the glad tidings in this world. That the jannah that was promised to you is there. Allati kuntum tu'adun. And the verse continues on. But I want to make sure that our audience here understands that we cannot lose hope. We should not lose hope. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. He's going to take care of us. The victory from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come. This oppression is going to come to an end. Every oppression, every injustice, there is an end to it. When it is, we don't know that. But there is an end to it, and that's definite.
Yes, sir.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, everyone, for listening. Please be a good listener and smash that like button. Throw a comment section in the comment section below. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you guys aren't aware, we are always on Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Central Time. You can always be up to date with whenever we're going live on the weekend. On our Twitter account at the Mad Boom Lukes. We also have Facebook and pretty much every other outlet out there. I'm going on Threads now, man. I'm just trying to pump as much material as I can.
You know what
out
happened
there.
to me? You know those super PACs that call you for donations? We're with the police federation, and we'd like to know if we believe in PACs. I'm like, I asked them, the guy today, I'm like, do you guys vote for Israel? Yeah, we'll have to get back to you, sir. I'm like, I'm not supporting anything that's. I'm always gonna give them anyway, but I just wanted to make them know that hey, this is an issue, right? Like take it back to Uncle Sam and let him know that hey, Israel is an issue.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Awesome. Yeah, every little bit helps. Any kind of don't discount anything you're doing. Keep doing it and look forward to the next day where you could do more. Don't lift what they want from you is to give up. They want you to give up because
they want you to think you're irrelevant. They want you to think you can't do anything.
Right. Yeah. That's their strategy from the beginning was never a two-state solution. Although they'd say it publicly, we want a two-state solution. They never wanted it. They knew that they could use Hamas and because they created Hamas, they funded it, and that's been established many times over. You guys must have seen a million articles already if you've been on social media about it. They wanted a slow suffocation where they could eventually drive out the remaining Palestinians out of Gaza, and whatever remained of the West Bank, they would gobble up those citizens and have a one Israel, and that's their solution. They want you to give up.
I was thinking about something too, and I was like, part of what he was saying was that they want you to give up hope in that area. And I was thinking when this conflict, it will end. No doubt it'll end. But Muslims should make a regular effort to visit Al-Aqsa. Because one thing they don't want you to do is they want you to forget about it and say, it's too dangerous, it's not worth it, too much hassle, and they forget that, at a time, making Hajj and Umrah was a hassle. I mean, it was a hassle, quote unquote hassle. Yeah. The travel was hard. People would say goodbye to their families as if this was their final journey. They had no idea if they're going to come back or not. Right? So at times, this is the tradition of making this pilgrimage, right? That it's difficult. It's hard, right? And so I hopefully, inshallah, I plan. I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, when this is like calming down and everything's done, I plan to make some regular trips to Al-Aqsa. No matter how difficult it is.
Sure, let's just start with one, bro.
Yeah, just to make the effort known that, hey, we didn't forget about Al-Aqsa. No. We're here just to see Al-Aqsa. Yeah. I don't care about anything else.
Oh, the people of Palestine love it. They say we want the people to see, the whole world to see what it's like.
Yeah. And I think the more we can do that, especially brothers that are closer to the area, like, because obviously for us it's a bit further, but some brothers live in Europe, which is much closer to get to those regions. Make the effort. That alone helps the people of, it boosts the morale of your brothers that are there. Yeah. When they're living in the belly of the beast and they see people that did not forget Al-Aqsa, the Holy Land. They didn't forget their brothers there. They meet them. They're happy to meet them. This boosts their morale. Because a lot of them, if you listen to them, they say, we're not here just for the money. Because there are people who were offered $40 million to move for a tiny little store because it's close to Al-Aqsa. Like, it has passageways that go to there. They're not in it just because they have money there or they're getting some kind of benefit. No, they're there because they say this is the wasiyyah, this is the inheritance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're here to protect. We're protecting it for you, not for us. We're gonna be gone tomorrow, but our generations are protecting this.
You're right.
All right, that's our show. We'll see you all next time. Assalamu alaikum.